No, this would be good for her.
I'll be missing those Jennings boys.
Go on then, we'll get recorded.
It's they after they pick them or whatever they do.
These are mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lay them out in the sun, and they get like a little suntan, and that's how you.
Being serious?
Yeah. That's how mushrooms have vitamin D.
You realise that this is halfway through a conversation. For context, just discussing medical vitamin D and how ways to get it, and Mr. Sandy, who is usually on the wire, probably should stay there, discussed how mushrooms get their vitamin D and how we then get our vitamin D from them.
Yeah, if you don't want to go out in the sun.
Yeah. And there we go. Welcome to the White Deer filmmaking podcast. I am Mark. We have Adam, unfortunately. And today we have a interview podcast with
As
Amy.
always.
Well, as always, yes, as always. With Amy Clarkson from Scotland, who is talking to us today about her film Life's Rich Tapestry, which won the
Best drama.
Yes, best drama. Yeah, exactly. In the November-December bi-monthly awards.
She gives at the start of the podcast. She gives a little rundown on what the film's about. So listen out for that.
Yeah.
We won't do that because she does it better.
Way better than we could. But actually, yeah, she gives a really succinct synopsis of what goes on, and for this film there's a lot of elements which if you don't visually see, you'll miss out on some of the narrative, and she explains that very well. So she does a great job of setting the context, and she's just a pleasure to speak to, and goes into quite a few really good bits of detail about her choices and the thought process behind working toward an end vision, so thinking with post-production in mind and how that can be beneficial. So really good, really useful, and yeah, really nice person.
Excellent.
Don't forget the code.
We'll tell you the code at the end.
Yes.
But let's get into the chat.
Okay, enjoy. Well, good morning. Firstly, tell us a little bit about your film. We should probably say what it is, but we'll do that in the intro.
Yeah, if you want to introduce your film and tell people kind of like just a bit about it, so that it gives a bit of context, then that would be great to start with, please.
Yeah, sure. So it's a short film called Life's Rich Tapestry, and it's kind of based off of my own experience. So it's about a young girl living in France, and it's her first time living abroad, so she's still learning the language, which we all know can be quite difficult. And she wants to be in the film industry, and she's working for a woman who's quite demanding and is quite difficult, who I know a lot of people have probably had same experiences as well. And she's also dealing with the loss of a grandparent. She's dealing with the loss of a family member. So there's quite a lot of different things, a lot of variables happening and changes happening at the same time. And she's going through quite a difficult moment. And in the film, it's in black and white. And the only kind of thing that's in colour is a book. And obviously we're quite aware of it because it's the only thing in colour. But to her, it's in the background. She's not really paying much attention to it until she drops it on the floor one day, and a letter comes out that she kind of forgot about, and it's from her grandfather who passed away, kind of encouraging her to always follow her dreams and never give up, and that kind of gives her fight again in life, and that kind of helps her to overcome the kind of battles and barriers that she's kind of had before, and then she can finally stand up to her evil boss and she can start doing what she's always wanted, which is kind of storytelling and writing. So she finally sits down and starts writing her story. So that's kind of the base of it, and that's kind of very big sum up, but there you go.
Yeah, I think we really liked how much of a nice story it is, and just a kind of a nice complete story to tell in a short film. Where did the idea come from?
So it was actually kind of myself going through that point of time. Like I was living in France at one point, and it was just after uni. And you have your university French, which is, books and very formal. And then when you go live abroad, it's completely different. And you've got the kind of film, TV jargon in English and French, and you're trying to learn and keep up with everything and the business aspect too. So it was really my first time in a job that was not kind of you're not really spoon fed. You kind of have to learn everything by yourself in a different language. So it was kind of difficult. And I'd actually just lost a grandfather as well. And the place I was working at was quite difficult, quite demanding. So it was all those variables happening to me really. And I think it was just quite therapeutic to kind of tell your own story. So I actually wrote it in a film school I was at in London. And I remember one of the first writing classes we have, the teacher just said, okay, like close your eyes and kind of think of the first story that comes to mind. And that was the first thing that came to mind to me, and I couldn't get it out. So I thought it was quite a sign that I kind of had to write it out and try to put it in a film and see what came of it. So it was kind of my own story, but I'm sure a lot of people have gone through the same experience. So kind of talking to other people in the film industry and lots of other industries at the same time. So
yeah, it does feel both personal and very relatable, I think. And I think that is, I think there's the way that you've kind of like pulled people into the story and get people invested in the characters. That's a really good thing, really.
Yeah, agreed. And as well, I mean, based with it being very personal to you, we've made our own films and done something similar and found it quite challenging to sort of re-immerse yourself in memories which mean something to you and experiences which are directly related to you. Was that something that you found an equal amount of challenge?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it was on several levels. Yeah, I mean, there was points when she was in her working environment and you've kind of got a kind of bully character as a boss, when you're reliving it, it is quite difficult because it was quite difficult moments for myself, and then you're seeing the character relive it and you're reliving the same point in time over and over again because it takes more than one take. But yeah, so that was quite hard, and obviously I had lost someone in my family too, which was obviously very difficult. But what was really good and what the film kind of reminded you of as well is that you've always got family and friends by your side. So even though you might have lost someone or going through a difficult time, making the film was quite a difficult thing in itself. I know the first time doing it, you realise there's so many other factors you hadn't thought of before, and it's actually really difficult telling one simple story. But I had, my parents and my family and friends constantly supporting you. So that kind of made it more meaningful and made you want to think, okay, it's a story that I really want to tell and I've got people supporting me. So I know it's worth telling because you've got the support in the background as well, which I'm sure is the same for your films as well. You need to kind of support. It's kind of hard doing it with one-man band. So
yeah.
But yeah.
For sure.
And you definitely find the people that you trust to collaborate with as well, I think. Is that something that you've developed and from this film and taken into future films, or from past films into this film as well?
Yeah, no, I think having a team who you really support, who supports you as well, is really important, and who understands your story but understands what you want to tell is really, really important. I was actually very lucky when I moved to London. I was in a big flat of lots of people and I didn't really know anybody, and lucky by chance one of my roommates was into film as well. He was a filmmaker, and I was like, what are the chances? I actually became really good friends with him, and he actually helped a lot. He was the first DC and one of the DOPs as well for this film. So from the onset, you're bonding with people, but he knew the story before I'd even taken it to class and stuff like that. So it was really important to have just even a few people on set who you really trusted and who you could really go to. And again, working with such great people. I mean, the actresses were amazing. Tatiana and Nicole, they were so good. I think they both had their own personal experiences of similar things, and they kind of go into their own difficulties and their own past experiences and bring that to screen as well. And they were so talented. It almost made it like my job easier because they kind of got it and they were just so professional the whole time. So it made it easier for a first time director, which is not always easy as well. But yeah, no, it was really good having a close team by your side, definitely.
It's just briefly, it's not something we should go into detail too much, but we've been noticing by speaking to other people that quite obviously there would be a divide between filmmaking in London, filmmaking elsewhere. Now you're in Scotland now. Is that helpful to you being in a place where it allows you probably to be a bit more? I guess
if there's less
rush from London,
less happening there, maybe.
Is it helpful? Can you still pursue filmmaking?
So I actually, as with film was too, I actually started out in Paris, in France, which is where I first tried to start, and it was interesting actually to see how they worked because a lot of students are already in film school. What I found out was that if you weren't in a film school, it was very hard to get like a runner position on set. So you needed to be in an internship, and you had to have your university sign the contract as well. There were 3 people. It was yourself, a company, and a university. But once you finish uni, there's kind of no university to sign for you. So I find that quite hard to get into in France. And then when I came to London, it was a great experience. I was in a film school, and as you said, it was very fast paced and you got to meet a lot of people. But outside of the film school, I actually found it hard to find jobs where you could be a runner on set. Maybe I was doing it wrong, I don't know, but I found it very difficult, and there was a lot of travel involved, and it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And then when I came to Scotland, I found that it's obviously a smaller community, and you didn't have to have a film school, you didn't have to know certain people. If you just sent your CV and showed your enthusiasm, you were more likely to get just even a 1 or 2 day runner job. And then you meet a certain amount of people on that set, and then they might need you again, and you go back and back, and then you're just sending your CV round and round. And maybe because it's a smaller base and community, it's maybe a wee bit easier to get contacts and get to know people that way. So I've actually found more jobs here than I have in London and Paris, to sum up. So yeah, I really enjoyed working in the film industry here, in the TV industry here. It's been I've had a lot more experience and met a lot of people, and it's been great, so I highly recommend it.
I think there's always kind of the 2 different routes that you can take, that kind of like runner and working your way up kind of thing, or maybe doing the more kind of like making your own films and progressing in your own films through your own films up the ladder kind of thing.
Because you do learn a lot when you're making your own films. You have to you have to have an awareness of so many different departments and things that there's no way that you can't learn something. Obviously there's a lot of stress by doing it yourself and doing all of these things when you're the director or something quite high up in responsibility. But yeah, I mean it definitely does seem to be 2 different ways, and I don't think there's any correct way at all. It's just however you find yourself in this industry.
I guess it's just saying that you can make your own stuff. If no one is around you making films, you can make your own stuff with and find like-minded people, like you say, quite sometimes quite serendipitously, kind of randomly come into contact with someone else. And I think we're hearing a lot of that as well, these random coming together of people that doesn't seem plausible in any way, but it just randomly happens, and you can make films.
It was quite nice in that obviously when I was at film school, obviously you're kind of, you put yourself in a situation where you're thrown with people all very like yourself, want to make a film, want to tell a story, and it was great. And then when you're kind of finished that film school, it's like, okay, how can I keep doing this when we're not obviously going to class every day? And what I find afterwards, kind of doing runner job or PA jobs, is that even if you're more office based or not out on set every day, you still learn a lot. Like from the production side as well, the pre-production, there's so much goes into it, and so much organisation, so many papers, so much paperwork. But yeah, I think even if you're not maybe on set every day and you're kind of at the office, you still learn a lot which is needed, kind of pre-post production as well. So all of it very valuable experience, I'd say.
So let's just talk a bit about the actors involved as well. And we've had Tatiana on the podcast before, who impressed us with her knowledge of the film industry and of acting herself. So kind of, can you talk a bit about how you found your actors and your experience working with them, please?
Yeah, sure. So I use Mandy to find to put the call out. So there were a few positions. There was obviously Sophie, who's played by Tatiana, and the boss, who's played by Nicole Harvey. And I had to find a voiceover actor as well to play GP, the grandfather, and another gentleman to kind of be the grandfather in the photograph. So there were 3 or 4 people to find, all very different, not all of them visually on screen. And it was really interesting, actually, the difference between finding a voiceover actor and finding the 2 actresses. Tatiana and Nicole, I felt that when I'd seen their performances, they both sent in videotapes, tape recordings. I kind of bonded with them straight away with what they were with their recording. And you're looking for certain things. Obviously, for Sophie, she had to have a certain level of French because obviously she was supposed to be someone still learning, but still come across as someone who's been there for a while. And Tatiana's French was very, very good. And I met with her and just bonded with her straight away. I'd watched some of her previous work, and she's such a great actress. She could play a variety of different roles, and you could get across exactly what she was trying to say and do. And she had her own ideas as well when she came to meet with me, which kind of enhanced her character quite a lot. So she was wonderful. And Nicole was the same. She's been in the industry a long time, and she had her own experience actually as Sophie. So she would say, "Oh, well, I remember being that person. Maybe I should treat her this way." And they bonded themselves very, very well, and they made life a lot easier for me because obviously it was my first time directing, and they just knew exactly what I was trying to say, and they were very accommodating, and I loved working with them. And for the grandfather voiceover, I never had to find a voiceover actor before, so it was quite interesting. You're just trying to like close your eyes and just trying to like intake all the character by a voice, which is something I hadn't done before, which is very interesting. And when I listened to Guy Mott's recording, you almost got like tears in your eyes. I'm like, okay, this is the one. You've got me. So yeah, it was a different experience for everyone. But I think when either I'd met with them or talked to them a bit more about the characters and they were very involved in it, I think it made it a lot easier because they kind of understood how personal it was for you and wanted to make the experience and the filming as fluid as possible. So it was very, very good working with everybody. They were all great.
Did you meet Guy?
Yes, I did. So yeah. It was what I did was I had a couple of phone calls with him beforehand, and he kind of I'd seen his kind of library of voices, and he was very, very great. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. You can do the grandfather voice, and we just kind of had a couple of conversations just to kind of say he'd do a couple of different versions for me. And it was obviously a certain letter that he had to read, and it was how he was supposed to do it. Was it supposed to be a bit more emotional, upbeat, or sad? How I wanted it to really come across. So we talked about that character a wee bit. And then we had a small premiere for the film, and I met him there, and it was just wonderful to meet him because I was like, oh, it's like meeting the grandfather in person. It's wonderful. Yeah, and it was great. So it was really important for everyone that I'd worked with. I kind of talked about the project or the character they were doing or portraying before we actually started filming. So you kind of got at least a touch basis with them and talk to them a wee bit about their own character. And I think that's just kind of helpful for both of you to really talk it through before you film. So that was very helpful for everyone. So
yeah, just because it's I've obviously done some voiceover stuff before, and I think there's a certain level of removal from a project because you're not in front of the camera, you're not on set and surrounded by everyone, and it could, if the communication isn't there, then you might just miss that important detail, which makes something so much more easier to bring, like more emotion to bring, and there is that communication element there, which I guess you just have to get right. But at the same time, it's the mark of a good director to be able to convey what they need from somebody, and it worked very well for your film. Just wanted to touch on a narrative element that you chose to work with, which was the use of colour and the lack thereof in certain aspects. And was that always in your mind? Was that always something you wanted to do?
It was. I'd actually thought of this story before I went to my film school, so I kind of had the idea in my head. But the colour aspect was actually while we were in class, we were always trying to think of ways of storytelling which might not be obviously through dialogue. You want to try to tell visual storytelling, and obviously you're kind of encouraged to try and keep your film to be not too long, trying to keep it as short as you can, because for festivals especially that's an important thing. And I was trying to get this idea of this book and this letter to be important, but I didn't want it to be a dialogue aspect. The more dialogue, you wanted it to be a bit more subtle. So I thought, oh, what's a way of showing that the book is here and its importance, but without talking about it really? And I thought, oh, colour, you could have it all in black and white and then have that one book in colour, which is obviously, it's been done a couple of times. The main example for me was in Schindler's List. Obviously, there was the red coat that was there and it was very prominent, and one bit of colour can tell quite a lot of a story. And I wanted to do that, so I think my editor loved me for that, because it was very hard to trace and to spend all the hours tracing out the colour of the book. But yeah, it was. I thought it was quite an interesting aspect, and some people did advise me, saying that it might not work because it might be too distracting. If you don't do it well, it might not come across that well. And I kind of wanted to do it because, in my opinion, it was really important to show that in her life she was going through a difficult time, and then when she kind of gets the fight back in her life, realizing the dream that she maybe put aside for the while, she wants to get out there, she wants to write. And in the fighting scene, when it turns into colour, it kind of showing a lot about that particular moment. She's getting colour back in her life, and she's realizing that she can fight for what she wants for. So I thought it was quite an interesting thing to do. It was quite difficult at times, but I think it was totally worth it because it was quite an interesting challenge to do. But I really enjoyed the idea of it, and kind of like the idea. I thought of an idea and it happened on screen, so it was very nice to actually see it in the big cinema. It's quite nice.
Did you? So did you had that idea before filming then? Yes,
I had that idea before filming. What was the first person I actually hired, if you will, for the whole film was my editor, because I thought it was very important to talk to her about several things, because the worst thing is if you film lots of things and then in the post-production you can't change it and you're just like, oh dear. So I actually talked with her a good few times, and we sat down and I said, is it possible to do this fight scene? Can I have this boxing scene where we're turning around and it turns into colour? And she's like, of course you can do it, you just have to do this, this, this. Can we have the book in colour? And she was like, yes, I just need to trace it. We need to do this, this, this. And I was like, great. And she was very, very helpful, and to know that I could do certain technical things in post-production helps you in the pre-production to knowing what you had to make sure you did before filming. And I think that colour aspect obviously is quite technical, so it was very handy to talk that through with her beforehand. Yeah. And the worst thing if it all went wrong, that would just be awful, but it didn't, so it was okay. Yeah. But yeah, good.
Did you do anything on set to view it in black and white, or deciding on what's the set design and stuff? Did you kind of pay much attention to that on set?
Yes, we did. Well, we were quite lucky that it's quite a small object, but I mean, we were very careful because it was in shot maybe only a few times throughout the whole time, and what we kind of had to make sure was it was as still as possible, so that for the editor, she could kind of trace it out and map it out, and the more it's moving, she has to constantly pause frame, do it again. So it was trying to keep it as still as possible.
Yeah.
And the actually hardest bit with the book was, I remember filming this, was when it fell down for the letter to fall out. And we did that, I don't know, about 20, 25 times, because every time the book fell, it just fell the wrong way around. The letter didn't come out, and we were just like, oh no, this is taking forever. So we just had to keep kind of positioning the letter in a certain way so that when it fell, it kind of fell out in a certain way. When it happened once, like, nobody move, Nobody moved. And then when you found cut, I was like, yes, it finally happened. I mean, but yeah, for objects with that, the editor kind of advised us to keep it as still as possible, and we tried to do that as much as we could, so it was easier for her in post-production.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's nice. It's really good to have an awareness of every stage of making the project, really, because it can make things decisions that you make a lot easier because you have that vision that you want to work towards, and it just makes everything so much more seamless. Obviously there's a lot of planning involved with that, so it's not easy, but it I think in our experience as well, we found that to be one of the best approaches, instead of staggering each block as it were.
Yeah, I definitely always try and think the same as that personally, so it rings very true with me, because I did a degree in visual effects, but I'm now a cinematographer, so not necessarily similar kind of areas, but I think it's really important to understand what's going to happen in post when you're actually shooting. And most of the time it's just like you say, don't make life hard for yourself, and if it's a visual effects shot, keep the camera still if you can, and just all the things that and if someone says fix it in post, I'm aware of how that happens and how long it takes.
I hate hearing that. Like, I'll fix it in post. It's like, can't be, because I've always been told that, like, if you're doing in post, it should be enhancing what's already there. It's not correcting it. So you need to be very careful that if it's not done on set a certain way, it'll only be enhanced that way. It won't be corrected differently.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I always remembered when I filmed.
Yeah, it's a very fair assessment, I think.
I think it's a good thing to bear in mind, and it's easy to forget that. So yeah, keeping it in mind is very useful, I think. But so when did you finish the film itself?
That's now, because it's 2020, I need to think of that. No, yeah, it's 2 years ago. So it was 2018 was the film school that I did. So the whole time you're preparing for your own film, you're filming it over 2 days. So it was a weekend shoot, which is another good challenge to do, filming a film in 2 days. And then we finished at kind of the end of 2018, and throughout 2019 I've just been kind of sending it to festivals, and a mixture of different festivals, ones that are monthly film festivals, one that are annual film festivals, European ones, all different kinds of ones. So just been doing that for this year, and we'll wait and see if how it goes. It was fun. Some film festivals take quite a while to get back to you, because obviously you might apply a year in advance before the actual event date, so you're just trying to keep fingers crossed. But I was very happy when the White Deer got that notification. I was like, yay!
Well,
it was very deserved in our mind. We really liked the film. Just a
really, really well told story, and especially in the runtime as well, just really nice. I think all the elements that you chose to use came together really well to tell that story. So
and again, we were speaking to someone the other day who we were really surprised when we found out that it was his first film, and likewise for you. I think the film could very easily be like you'd been making narrative films for years, and I think people would be happy to have achieved what you achieved in your film. So I think it's very good that you're a first time director and managed to achieve what you achieved in it. What's next? Have you been working on any other films since then?
So since I've been after London, I actually came back to Bonnie, Scotland, and I've been working on set, but as different ways. So I've been doing kind of runner, PA jobs, and last year I was actually an assistant producer at a production company in Glasgow, which was great. They're called Up Next Studios. Shout out. And I was working on a few shows with them, and that was really interesting because obviously we're working in a short film for like a year straight thinking about films, and then we were kind of working on TV. So that was really interesting to get that kind of different aspect. It was very, very quick. It's a lot faster than working on like a film set. But I learned so much. The team were wonderful, and I was working with them in the kind of production side of things for about 8 months or so. So yeah, that was great. And from then to here, I've just kind of been freelancing a wee bit, so doing a different mixture of jobs, mostly on the production side. So yeah, it's always kind of the organisation side, and which we'd had experience with our own films because we're all the producers of our own films. So just kind of heading down that line, I think. So looking for more kind of production jobs, PA runners, trying to be on set as much as I can, and meeting as many people as I can, so that can keep my networking skills up to scratch.
Ready for when the next idea hits you.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you can always have so many ideas in your head, but I think I was quite lucky that where I was before, I had quite a lot of time to write it. I think writing a script can take a long, long time. I remember I was talking to Tatiana about her film, and I think she was it can take up to a year to really like get your script down, thoroughly think out the characters, developments, and the narrative, and it can take quite a lot of your time. So if I want to do it the next time, I really want to make sure that I'm really, really prepared to put in all the time and effort and dedicate myself really to the next script, which we'll find out when that will be. Not today, don't worry.
And one of the things that we learned from Tatiana was what to do with your film afterwards, after it's finished and on the festival circuit, and promoting it and making sure it has a life, because I think we've been guilty in the past of making a film and then going on to the next one. Maybe that's the more exciting part of the process, actually filmmaking, but you actually need to do something with the film as well. So I think that's something that we're also trying to do currently. So I think, it just all comes down to everything takes longer than you think, like with the script, and then post-production as well, and afterwards even. So I think it's good to take your time and get it right. There's definitely something to be said for getting it right rather than churning out a load of films.
Yeah, and it can take quite a while. I know the festival route can take up to a year and a half, and you want to kind of investigate or research the festivals a wee bit to kind of see if it will maybe be a good mix or a good matchup for your film. And it can take a while, and you want to make sure that everyone who's working on the team gets kind of a copy of the film as well, and they can get involved in it as much as they can as well. So yeah, it can definitely take a while, and again, script writing can take a good chunk of your time, so it's just kind of finding the right moment for you to kind of delve into that storytelling world again. So we'll wait and see what that will be.
We're getting towards the end now. I wonder if there's any, two things. The first is, if you could set yourself a goal for maybe 5 years' time, I know it's a bit in the future, is there somewhere where you'd like to be, or something that you'd like to have done within the industry? And also, if there's anything in the past few years or a bit of time that you've been working that you've learned and you would say, okay, I'm glad I know this now and other people need to know this. Anything you'd like to share?
Okay, so the first question was the future one. Okay. In 5 years' time, I always find that question really hard because
it is very hard.
Years ago, I never would have thought that I would be here.
Exactly,
so it's very hard to determine where you're going to be. But I think as long as in 5 years' time I'm still working in the industry and still working with as many projects as I can, and I've said, I've worked with this project, and I've learned so much. As long as I'm still learning and I'm still enjoying what I'm doing in the industry, I think I'll be a happy bunny. I very much like the kind of producing side of things. I think it's really interesting to get, because you're involved in all aspects of it. You can meet, for the TV side, for the what I was working with last year, you're meeting a lot of contributors, you're organising a lot of the locations, and you're kind of thinking the kind of like bird's eye view of the day filming or the several days filming, and you get to kind of be organised in all aspects of it. So if I can kind of keep going in that direction, maybe one day end up being a producer for certain things, that would be great. Just kind of working as many projects as I can. I'll be happy as well. It would be nice to do another film. It would be nice to do another short film. But I'll need to see how to do that, because having a film school network was very, very handy. So to do it completely by yourself, not in a school, that can be a new challenge for myself. So I'll say that. And the second question, what was it again? It was
so if there's anything that you've learned which is a lesson, or it could be
something that you'd like to share with
something that you'd like to share.
I think I guess from my own short film, if something goes wrong, just don't panic. I think you need to just keep a calm head. Like, I know that like lots of things can go wrong on a film day. Like, everyone, I think, who works in the industry can know that. Some people might be late. Something might not work technically. There might be technical problems. You might have to go back for pickups. Like, it can be very daunting. And if something goes wrong, I think it's just very, very important just to keep a clear mind and just think, okay, this has happened. How can I solve the problem? So it's either just, talking with the right person on set to say, okay, I need to talk to you about this problem. How can we solve this? And it's done. It's just kind of keeping your problem solving mind always on, and just stay calm is what I've learned. It's a simple thing to say, but I think it can actually be very effective. That if it's a bad day or it's gone wrong, just stay calm and just breathe, and it'll all be fine.
That's a very good message.
That's good advice.
Yes, very good. And finally, how can people follow your career? Are there any social media sites you'd like us to make people aware of?
I'm bad with social media. I have to be completely honest. I'm really bad at it. But I do have Instagram, and I do have Facebook. So you can find me both on there. And for the Instagram one, I have actually been putting up. I have been quite lucky that the film has been accepted in other film festivals as well. So whenever that happens, I kind of put up something on my Instagram. So you can follow me on there and see how it goes. But yes, those are the two. I'm very bad at social media. I really am. I need to be better at it. But
and is that your name? Do people search for your name and then they'll find
there's Amy Clarkson on Facebook, and my Instagram one, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's Clarkson. I don't actually know.
What we'll do is we'll check it and put it on.
We'll put a link.
Yes, I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. But yeah, you can find me on those, and yeah, that's the easiest way.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, that was a great chat with Amy. We really got a lot out of it, and she really went into good depth about her storytelling, her thoughts on storytelling, and her experiences in the industry. I thought it was really a useful podcast for anyone who's just maybe a first-time director as well. And
quite hopeful, and not in the way of hopeful with lack of experience. She obviously knows what she's talking about. She's done a lot, met a lot of people, and she's just enjoying her life within the industry, and it's going well for her, and she's got lots to talk about. So we've already said that we'd love to have her back on to go into more detail about some topics, so listen out for that, because I'd love to see that come in the future. But yeah, really enjoy that, and
the message of just keep learning.
Exactly. Very good message, isn't
which
it?
I think we fully what's the word? Appreciate. That'll
agree
with as well. And is kind of the thought behind this podcast as well. Like, just if we can, I think you learn so much through being on sets, but you can also learn so much through hearing people talk about their experience on set as well. So it's that's what we want to try and achieve with this podcast, bringing people interesting topics and learnings from their sets, and we always learn, so hopefully you do too.
So just to reiterate, look, if you really want to know something about filmmaking, if you know someone who's going to be on the podcast and you want to ask them a question that you for some reason can't do straight away through a text message or something, whatever it is, send us an email or a message, and we'll try our best to get it answered for you. But now, the code, the all-important code. This week, have your pens and paper at the ready.
Do people use pen and paper these days? Is it just
Probably
you?
not. It's well. I've got it right here. It probably is just me. However, it's just a bit of time for people to get ready, isn't it?
You can note it down on digital touchscreen
But what if
devices
they're
as well.
listening on their phone now and they don't want to take the phone?
You don't have your. Do you take your phone away from your ear like it's a phone call? How do you listen to your podcasts?
I meant the opposite.
Welcome to the White Deer
Picking up the phone.
Filmmaking Podcast, where we have no idea how podcast works.
Anyway, the code. It's your fault.
Well,
We were going really well, and then you went on a sidetrack tangent.
well, that's what people want.
Right.
The code.
Third time lucky. WDPOD AC665. Once more. WDPOD AC665. Okay, and that's for 10% off any submission, and yeah, we hope to see your films submitted soon. Oh, last thing.
Oh dear.
We should say that it only runs till next week, where there's a new code. I mean, by now, that's probably quite obvious, but just for any new listeners. But anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the interview.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on social media. All that kind of stuff. We'll be back next week
with more.
with another chat.
Yes. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.